The stars stretched endlessly before the viewing window of the ISS Endurance. Captain Daniel Wright stood with his hands clasped behind his back, his blue uniform crisp despite the long hours of his shift. The year was 2157, and humanity had finally ventured beyond their solar system. Captain, Laura Bennett's voice broke through his thoughts. His first officer approached with a tablet in hand, her steady steps matching the quiet hum of the ship's engines. Our long-range sensors are picking up something unusual. Daniel turned away from the window. Unusual how? Energy readings that don't match any known natural phenomena. Laura's fingers moved across the screen as she pulled up the data, and they're moving in a pattern that suggests artificial origin. Daniel's heart began to race, but his voice remained calm. Alert the science team. Get Dr. Miller up here. Within minutes, the bridge crew worked with focused intensity. Dr. Alan Miller, the ship's chief scientist, studied the readings with wide eyes. His usually messy gray hair seemed even more disheveled as he ran his fingers through it repeatedly. "Captain," he said, his voice barely above a whisper, "these readings, they're not random. This is a signal, a repeated pattern." The bridge fell silent. Everyone understood what this meant. After centuries of searching the stars, humanity might have finally found what they were looking for. "Can we respond?" Daniel asked. Dr. Miller nodded. "The pattern is simple enough. We can mirror it back to them." "Do it," Daniel ordered. He turned to his communications officer. "Record everything. Earth needs to know about this." Hours passed as they exchanged simple mathematical sequences with the unknown source. The signals grew more complex, eventually evolving into basic language patterns. The ship's AI worked tirelessly to decode the incoming messages. Then, without warning, a massive ship appeared in front of them. It seemed to step out of nowhere, its hull gleaming with a metallic sheen that shifted colors like oil on water. The vessel dwarfed the Endurance, making Earth's most advanced spaceship look like a toy in comparison. "All stations, yellow alert," Daniel commanded. "Weapons on standby, but do not target. Laura, make sure our translation matrix is ready." The alien ship hung motionless in space. Its design was unlike anything they had ever seen. Smooth curves blended with sharp angles in a way that seemed to defy physics. Then, a message came through their communication system. "We are the Zentari," the translated voice announced. "We have been watching your progress, children of Earth." Daniel shared a quick glance with Laura before responding. "This is Captain Daniel Wright of the International Spaceship Endurance. We come in peace, seeking friendship and knowledge." There was a pause. Then the voice returned. "Your species intrigues us, Captain. You have advanced faster than any other race we have encountered. Perhaps too fast." The subtle threat in those words wasn't lost on Daniel, but he maintained his diplomatic approach. "We would be honored to learn from your experience and share our own discoveries." Indeed, the Zentari ship's surface rippled, and a smaller vessel emerged from its side. "We will send a delegation to your ship. Prepare for our arrival." The next few hours were a flurry of activity. The crew set up their largest conference room for the meeting, while security teams discreetly took up positions throughout the ship. Dr. Miller worked with his team to adjust their environmental systems to match the atmospheric requirements the Zentari had sent. When the alien delegation arrived, even the most prepared crew members couldn't help but stare. The Zentari stood nearly 7 feet tall, their bodies covered in what looked like flowing liquid metal. Their faces were oddly geometric, with crystalline eyes that shifted colors as they moved. The lead Zentari introduced itself as Ambassador Kexery. Its voice had a musical quality that the translation matrix couldn't quite capture. "Your vessel is primitive," it said, "but efficiently designed for your level of technology." Daniel noticed Laura tense beside him at the word primitive, but she maintained her professional demeanor. "We're proud of what we've accomplished," he replied diplomatically, "but we know we have much to learn." The meeting lasted for several hours. The Zentari asked numerous questions about Earth's history, particularly about humanity's rapid technological advancement over the past 2 centuries. They seemed especially interested in how humans had overcome their biological limitations to survive in space. Most species take twice as long to achieve what you have, Ambassador Kexri noted. Your adaptability is remarkable. Necessity drives innovation, Daniel explained. When we face challenges, we find ways to overcome them. The ambassador's crystalline eyes flickered. Yes, we have observed this trait. It makes your species unique. As the meeting concluded, the Zentari offered to establish diplomatic relations with Earth. They provided coordinates for their nearest outpost and suggested arranging a formal meeting with Earth's leaders. After the aliens departed, Daniel called his senior staff together. While most of the crew celebrated humanity's first contact with an advanced civilization, something bothered him about the encounter. Did anyone else notice how they kept emphasizing our rapid advancement? He asked the gathered officers. Laura nodded, and their surprise at our adaptability. They almost seemed concerned about it. Keep all sensor logs running at maximum capacity, Daniel ordered. I want to know everything about their ship's capabilities that we can learn. Something tells me we need to be prepared for any possibility. As the ISS Endurance began its journey back to Earth, carrying news that would forever change human history, Daniel stood once again at the viewing window. The Zentari ship had long since disappeared, but he couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of something much bigger. Computer, he said quietly, send a private message to Earth Command. Subject, first contact assessment. He paused, choosing his words carefully. While the Zentari appear peaceful, recommend immediate acceleration of our defense and technology programs. In their eyes, I saw not just advanced knowledge, but calculation. They weren't just assessing our ship, they were assessing our potential as either allies or threats. The computer acknowledged his message as Daniel watched the stars streak by. Humanity had dreamed of this moment for centuries, but now that it had arrived, he wondered if they were truly ready for what would come next. Behind him, the ship hummed steadily, carrying its crew and their world-changing discovery back toward Earth. Whatever the future held, humanity would face it as they always had, with determination, adaptability, and hearts as strong as steel. 2 years had passed since humanity's first contact with the Zentari. Earth had changed dramatically in that time. New technologies appeared almost monthly, though the Zentari shared little of their advanced knowledge directly. Instead, they watched and waited, their massive ships occasionally appearing in Earth's orbit like silent observers. Amy Martinez sat at her communications station in the newly built Lunar Defense Center, her dark eyes fixed on the stream of data flowing across her screens. As Earth's best communications expert, she had developed a unique understanding of Zentari transmission patterns. Tonight, something felt different. That's odd, she muttered, adjusting her headset. The usual Zentari communications were precise and formal, but this signal had a different rhythm. She isolated the frequency and began running it through her custom decryption programs. Across the room, Peter Collins looked up from his engineering station. Found something interesting? He asked, his voice carrying the slight drawl of someone who had spent too many years in space. Maybe. Amy's fingers flew across her keyboard. This transmission isn't following their normal protocols. It's hidden beneath their regular communications. Peter walked over to her station, his coffee forgotten on his desk. He watched as Amy's program slowly decoded the alien message. Both of their faces paled as they read the translation. Get Catherine Sullivan down here now, Amy said urgently, and make sure this stays off the main channels. 20 minutes later, Catherine Sullivan, Earth's head of military strategy, stood studying the decoded message. Her gray uniform bore the new Earth Defense Force insignia, and her expression was grave. You're certain this is accurate? She asked. Amy nodded. I've run it through the system 3 times. It's a message between their ship captains. They never meant for us to see it. The message glowed on the screen. Human technological progression exceeds acceptable parameters. Their adaptability poses significant threat to Centauri dominance. Recommendation: implementation of Protocol 47 Alpha. Timeline: maximum 3 stellar cycles. In simple terms, Peter added, they're planning something big, and we have maybe 3 years before they do it. Catherine paced the room, her mind racing. They've been studying us all this time. Every piece of technology they shared, every diplomatic meeting. They were assessing our capabilities. What do we do? Amy asked. We prepare, Catherine replied firmly, but carefully. If they realize we've intercepted this message, they might move faster. She turned to Peter. How are the new defense systems coming along? Peter ran a hand through his graying hair. The prototypes are promising. We've managed to reverse engineer some of their basic shielding technology, but we're still years behind them. Then we need to think differently, Catherine said. Humans have always been good at that. We don't need to match their technology. We need to find ways to counter it. Over the next few weeks, activity across Earth's military and scientific installations increased, but always under the guise of normal development. Catherine coordinated with defense forces worldwide, while Peter's engineering teams worked around the clock on new technologies. Amy continued monitoring Centauri communications, building a more detailed picture of their plans. Each new decoded message confirmed their fears. The Centauri saw humanity's rapid advancement as a threat to their galactic dominance. One evening, as Peter was testing a new shield configuration, Amy burst into his lab. They're accelerating their timeline, she said, breathing hard. I just intercepted another transmission. They know we've been improving our defenses. Peter immediately called Catherine, who arrived within minutes. The three of them gathered around Amy's tablet, reading the latest intercepted message. They're not just worried about our technology, Amy explained. They're concerned about how quickly we learn and adapt. Apparently, most species they've encountered take centuries to achieve what we've done in decades. Catherine's expression hardened. Then we'll have to adapt even faster. She turned to Peter. How close are we to implementing the planetary shield grid? We've got the basic framework in place, he replied. But powering it is another matter. We'd need more energy than Earth currently produces. What about the new fusion reactors? Amy suggested. The ones based on the Centauri designs. Peter's eyes lit up. If we modify them, push them beyond their normal safety limits, it's risky, but it might work. Do it, Catherine ordered. And Amy, keep monitoring their communications. I want to know the moment anything changes. She paused, looking at her tablet. I'm going to brief the Defense Council. We need to accelerate everything. Ship production, weapon development, training programs. The Centauri might think they have us outmatched, but they don't understand what humans are capable of when our backs are against the wall. As Catherine left the room, Peter and Amy shared a worried look. Through the lab's window, they could see Earth hanging in the black sky, beautiful and vulnerable. You know what's ironic? Amy said softly. We spent centuries hoping we weren't alone in the universe. Now we found advanced alien life, and they want to destroy us because we learned too quickly. Peter nodded, turning back to his work. Then we'll just have to learn even faster. It's what we do best. He pulled up the shield designs on his screen. The Centauri think they've seen what humanity is capable of. They haven't seen anything yet. In the weeks that followed, Earth's preparations continued in secret. New defense installations were built under the cover of civilian projects. Military vessels were constructed in underground facilities. Every nation contributed resources and personnel to the effort, united by the common threat. Catherine coordinated it all from the Lunar Defense Center, knowing they were in a race against time. The Centauri ships still appeared regularly in orbit, their crews unaware that their secret plans had been discovered. Or perhaps they knew and didn't care, confident in their technological superiority. But they had made one crucial mistake. In all their calculations about humanity's technological progress, they had failed to account for humanity's greatest strength, the ability to unite and overcome impossible odds when faced with extinction. As Amy decoded more transmissions and Peter developed new defensive systems, the people of Earth prepared for what was coming. They didn't know exactly when or how the Centauri would strike, but they knew one thing for certain. Humanity would not go quietly into the night. In her office overlooking the lunar surface, Catherine reviewed the latest defense preparations. "Send word to all commands," she told her staff. Code phrase, "Steel Heart. The time for hiding our preparations is over. We know they're coming, and we'll be ready when they do." The warning had been received. Now it was time to show the Centauri exactly what humanity was capable of when pushed to the edge. Commander Jack Harrison stood before the gathered world leaders in the underground facility beneath the Rocky Mountains. The room was silent as he pulled up the holographic display showing Earth's defensive preparations. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, his voice steady despite the weight of his words, "the Steel Heart Initiative is now fully operational. Every nation, every resource, every mind working toward one goal: survival." The display showed a network of defense stations circling the Earth and Moon. But these were just the visible parts of humanity's preparations. The real work happened in secret facilities scattered across the globe. In one such facility, deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, Dr. Susan Palmer worked tirelessly in her quantum physics lab. Her latest project lay spread out before her, a new type of metal alloy that could change everything. "Run the test again," she told her assistant, pushing her red hair back from her tired eyes. The machine hummed to life, bombarding the metal sample with energy levels that would have destroyed any normal material. The alloy glowed but held firm. Better yet, it seemed to absorb the energy, growing stronger. Susan allowed herself a small smile. After months of failures, they finally had a breakthrough. She reached for her phone to call Commander Harrison, but he was already calling her. "Dr. Palmer," his voice came through, tense with urgency. "Please tell me you have good news. Our early warning systems just picked up increased Centauri fleet movements." "Actually, yes," Susan replied, staring at the test results. "We've done it. The quantum-reinforced alloy works. It doesn't just resist their energy weapons. It gets stronger when hit by them." There was a pause on the line. "How quickly can we begin production?" "The basic formula is ready. I'm sending the specifications to all Steel Heart manufacturing facilities now." She looked at her screen, watching as the data transferred. "We can start retrofitting our ships within the week." "Excellent work," Harrison said. "Get to the command center as soon as you can. We need to coordinate with the fleet." Across the world, Steel Heart facilities sprang into action. The new alloy, soon nicknamed Steel Heart Metal by the production teams, began rolling out to shipyards and defense installations. In orbital dry dock, engineers worked around the clock to strengthen Earth's defensive fleet. Peter Collins, now chief engineer of the Steel Heart Initiative, supervised the upgrades personally. "Careful with those welds," he called out to his team as they applied the new alloy to the hull of their newest ship. "This stuff's worth more than all of us combined." A young engineer approached him with a tablet. "Sir, we've finished the simulations. With Dr. Palmer's alloy, our ship's survival rate against Centauri weapons jumps by 300%. Peter nodded, studying the data. "Good. Now let's make it 400%. He turned to look at Earth below them, its surface now dotted with the faint gleams of defense installations. "We'll need every advantage we can get." In the Lunar Defense Center, Amy Martinez continued her work monitoring Centauri communications. Her department had grown from a small team to an entire floor of analysts, all working to stay one step ahead of their potential attackers. "Commander," she called, waving Harrison over to her station. "We're picking up increased activity in their fleet. Their ships are gathering at coordinates just beyond Mars orbit." Harrison leaned over her shoulder, studying the data. "How many?" "At least 50 vessels, all larger than anything we have." She pulled up another screen. "But there's something else. Their communications pattern has changed. They're using more encryption than ever before." "Can you break it?" Amy shook her head. Not yet, but the fact that they're being more secretive tells us something. They know we're preparing. Harrison straightened up, his face grim. Then we need to prepare faster. He opened a channel to all Steel Heart facilities. This is Commander Harrison. As of now, we're at condition yellow. All ships begin immediate retrofitting with the new alloy. All defense stations go to full power. This is not a drill. In her lab, Susan Palmer worked with renewed urgency. The first batch of Steelheart metal was just the beginning. She knew they needed more than just strong ships. They needed a way to fight back. The alloy doesn't just absorb energy, she explained to Harrison later that day. With some modifications, we might be able to redirect it, turn their own weapons against them. Harrison nodded. How long? A few weeks, maybe less. She pulled up a simulation showing the ship equipped with the modified alloy absorbing and then returning an energy blast. We'll need to adjust our weapon systems, retrain our gunners. Do it, Harrison ordered. And Dr. Palmer, good work. You might have just given us a fighting chance. As the day ended, Harrison stood in the command center, watching the global status displays. Green lights showed Steel Heart facilities operating at full capacity worldwide. Ships were being upgraded, crews were training, and new weapons were being developed. But would it be enough? The Zentari had centuries of technological advancement on their side. They had conquered other species, built an empire among the stars. By all logical measures, Earth shouldn't stand a chance. But the Zentari had never faced humans before. They didn't understand that humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology or their weapons. It was their determination, their ability to unite against a common threat, their refusal to accept defeat. Harrison touched the Steel Heart Initiative emblem on his uniform, a stylized human heart forged from steel. It represented everything they were fighting for: strength, unity, and the unbreakable spirit of humanity. Sir, an officer called out. All stations report ready. Steel Heart defense grid is at 100% capacity. Harrison nodded. Good. Now we wait. He looked at the tactical display showing the gathering Zentari fleet. They think they're ready for us. They think they know what we're capable of. A slight smile crossed his face. They're about to learn just how wrong they are. Above them, Earth's new defense fleet hung in orbit, their hulls gleaming with the distinctive sheen of Steelheart metal. They were fewer in number than the Zentari ships, smaller and less advanced. But they carried humanity's hopes, dreams, and determination. The Steelheart Initiative was ready. Now it was just a matter of time before they would find out if it would be enough. The red dust of Mars swirled outside the thick windows of Martina's colony. Richard Cooper, the colony administrator, stood at his usual spot in the control center, watching the morning supply shuttles arrive. Everything seemed normal, but his gut told him something was wrong. Sir, called Nicole Adams, his head of security. Long-range sensors are picking up unusual readings. Her dark uniform bore the Steel Heart Initiative patch, a recent addition to all colonial security forces. Richard walked to her station, frowning at the data. How many? 15 Zentari warships, coming in fast. Nicole's fingers flew across her console. They'd dropped out of faster-than-light travel much closer than usual. This isn't a normal patrol. Richard's military training kicked in. Sound the alarm. Begin evacuation procedures. He opened a channel to the entire colony. This is Administrator Cooper. This is not a drill. All civilians to emergency shelters. All defense personnel to battle stations. The colony erupted into organized chaos. Families rushed to the underground bunkers while defense teams manned their positions. The new defensive shields, powered by Dr. Palmer's quantum reactors, hummed to life around the colony. Steel Heart Command. This is Martina's colony, Nicole transmitted. We are under imminent attack. Requesting immediate assistance. The response came quickly. Martina's colony. Hold position. Relief fleet is en route. Time to arrival. 40 minutes. Richard looked at Nicole. We need to hold for 40 minutes. She nodded grimly. The new shields should help, and they don't know about our other surprises. The Zentari ships appeared in the orange sky, their hulls gleaming with that familiar oil-slick sheen. They were massive, each one larger than the entire colony. A transmission cut through all colonial frequencies. Humans of Mars, a cold voice announced. Your rapid advancement ends today. Surrender, and you may survive as our subjects. Richard grabbed the comm unit. This is Administrator Cooper. We decline your offer. He nodded to Nicole. Show them our first surprise. Hidden panels in the Martian surface slid open, revealing defense turrets coated in steelheart metal. They opened fire, sending concentrated beams of energy at the Zentari ships. The aliens, clearly not expecting such resistance, took several direct hits. Their shields are holding, Nicole reported, but they're surprised. They didn't expect us to have this level of technology. The Zentari recovered quickly. Their ships launched a devastating barrage of energy weapons. The colony's shields lit up brilliantly as they absorbed the attack. Thanks to Dr. Palmer's designs, each hit made them stronger. Shields at 130% capacity, a technician called out. The attacks are actually helping us. But the Zentari had more tricks. Small fighter craft poured from their ships, seeking weak points in the colony's defenses. They were met by Mars' own defense fighters, piloted by Earth's best. Keep those fighters away from the civilian bunkers, Richard ordered. He watched as human pilots, though outnumbered, used their superior maneuverability in Mars' thin atmosphere to their advantage. A massive explosion rocked the colony. They've breached the outer defense line. Someone shouted. Nicole was already moving. Security teams to Sector 7. We have borders. She checked her weapon, looking at Richard. Stay here and coordinate the defense. I'll handle the ground fight. Richard nodded, turning back to the tactical display. The colony's defenses were holding, but barely. 30 minutes until reinforcements, he announced to all stations. We just need to hold on. Nicole led her security teams through the colony's corridors. The Zentari ground forces were impressive. Tall, armored figures that seemed to flow like liquid metal. But they hadn't counted on human determination. Use the steelheart barricades, she ordered her teams. Their weapons will only make them stronger. The security teams took cover behind barriers coated with the special alloy, letting the Zentari waste energy trying to break through. Above the colony, the space battle continued. Human pilots used every trick they knew, using Mars' dust storms and canyons to their advantage. What they lacked in technology, they made up for in creativity and courage. 20 minutes to reinforcements, Richard announced, watching the tactical display. The colony shields were still holding, but more Zentari ships had arrived. All personnel, fall back to secondary positions. Nicole's voice crackled over the comm. Ground forces are contained, but we're running out of ammunition. These aliens just don't stay down. Hold position, Richard replied. Help is coming. The next 15 minutes were the longest of Richard's life. The colony shook with constant impacts. Emergency teams rushed to seal breaches and treat the wounded. But no one gave up. No one surrendered. Then, finally, new contacts appeared on the long-range sensors. Earth Defense Fleet, arriving on schedule, a familiar voice announced. It was Commander Harrison. Martinez Colony, stand by for immediate support. The relief fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel right on top of the Zentari positions. Their hulls gleamed with steelheart metal as they opened fire. The Zentari, caught between the colony's defenses and the new arrivals, found themselves in a crossfire. All defense teams, push now, Richard ordered. Nicole's security forces advanced, driving back the Zentari ground troops. In space, Earth's ships used their new quantum weapons, turning the Zentari's own energy attacks back against them. The battle lasted another hour, but the outcome was no longer in doubt. The Zentari, for the first time in their history, were forced to retreat. Their remaining ships disappeared into faster-than-light travel, leaving their destroyed vessels and defeated ground forces behind. In the colony's control center, Richard finally allowed himself to breathe. The casualty reports were coming in. They had lost good people, but the colony had held. Mars remained in human hands. Nickel returned, her uniform dusty and torn, but her spirit unbroken. "The Zentari prisoners are secure," she reported. "They seem confused. They can't understand how we beat them." Richard looked out at the Martian landscape, now littered with the debris of battle. "We beat them because we had no choice. Because giving up isn't in our nature." Commander Harrison's voice came through the comm again. "Martinez colony, well done. You've just shown the galaxy what humans are truly capable of. The stand at Olympus Mons will be remembered." As cleanup crews began their work and medical teams treated the wounded, Richard knew this was just the beginning. The Zentari would be back, probably with an even larger force, but humanity would be ready. They had proven something today, not just to the Zentari, but to themselves. When pushed to the edge, when faced with impossible odds, humanity didn't break. Like the steel heart metal that had helped save them, they only grew stronger. Fleet Admiral Elizabeth Carter paced the bridge of her flagship, the ISS Defiant. The massive viewscreen showed hundreds of Earth ships gathered for humanity's first major offensive against the Zentari. Each vessel's hull gleamed with the distinctive shine of steel heart metal. "All ships report ready," Admiral Captain Matthew Brooks announced from his command chair. The Defiant was Earth's newest and most powerful warship, built specifically for this moment. Elizabeth nodded, her gray hair catching the light from the tactical displays. "Open a channel to all ships." When the channel opened, she took a deep breath. "This is Fleet Admiral Carter. For 2 months, we've watched the Zentari test our defenses. They thought their attack on Mars would break us. Instead, it showed them what humans are truly capable of." She paused, looking at the assembled fleet. "Today, we take the fight to them. Today, we show them that humanity will not be conquered or controlled. Battle Plan Phoenix is now in effect. Good hunting and Godspeed." The fleet split into 3 groups, exactly as strategist Ryan Phillips had planned. Ryan stood at his station on the Defiant, monitoring the tactical display. His new battle strategies had been tested in countless simulations, but this would be their first real test. "Main fleet, prepare for faster-than-light jump," Elizabeth ordered. "Strike groups, begin your runs." The smaller strike groups vanished first, heading for their targets. Then the main fleet jumped, the stars blurring around them as they traveled to the heart of Zentari-controlled space. They emerged near a major Zentari supply base. The alien ships there were caught completely by surprise. They had never expected humans to strike so far from Earth. "All ships, open fire," Elizabeth commanded. "Follow the Phoenix Protocol." The human fleet attacked in perfect coordination. Smaller ships darted between the larger Zentari vessels, their steel heart hulls absorbing enemy fire and growing stronger. The modified quantum weapons Dr. Palmer had designed threw the absorbed energy back at the Zentari ships with devastating effect. "Enemy fleet is responding," Ryan reported. 3 carrier groups approaching from Sector 7. Elizabeth smiled slightly. "Right on schedule. Signal strike groups to 2 and 3. Suddenly, the other human strike groups appeared behind the approaching Zentari reinforcements. The aliens found themselves caught in a carefully planned trap. "They're trying to coordinate their defense," Matthew observed, "but our jamming systems are keeping them separated." This was another of Ryan's innovations. Instead of trying to break the Zentari's advanced communications, they simply flooded them with too much information to process. "Launch fighter squadrons," Elizabeth ordered. "Begin attack pattern Delta." Human fighters poured from the larger ships. Unlike the Zentari's rigid attack formations, Earth's pilots flew in seemingly chaotic patterns that constantly changed. It was another advantage of human adaptability. No 2 attacks ever looked the same. On the tactical display, Ryan watched his strategy unfold. The Zentari are falling back to their secondary positions. He highlighted a section of space, just as predicted. Admiral, Matthew called out, we're detecting power surges from the supply base. They're trying to destroy their resources before we can capture them. Elizabeth turned to her communications officer. Signal the Nighthawk team. They're cleared to proceed. Deep inside the Zentari base, a special operations team led by Commander Joe Franklin had already infiltrated the facility. Using stealth technology reverse-engineered from captured Zentari ships, they had slipped in during the chaos of the main battle. Charges set, Joe reported over a secure channel, beginning data extraction. While the space battle raged outside, the infiltration team copied the base's databanks and planted specialized devices throughout its critical systems. These weren't bombs. They were something far more valuable. Nighthawk team is clear, Ryan announced. Data package received. Elizabeth nodded. All ships begin Phase 2. The human fleet started falling back, appearing to retreat under heavy Zentari fire. The aliens, sensing victory, pressed their advantage, exactly as planned. Activation signal sent, Ryan reported with a grim smile. Throughout the Zentari base, the planted devices activated. They didn't destroy the facility. Instead, they transmitted its command codes to the human fleet. In an instant, the base's own defense systems turned against the Zentari ships. Enemy fleet is in disarray, Matthew reported. Their command structure is completely disrupted. Elizabeth opened the fleet-wide channel again. All ships, execute final attack run. Show them no quarter. The human fleet turned and attacked with everything they had. Zentari ships, caught between their own corrupted defense systems and the human assault, began to fall. Enemy vessels are attempting to retreat, Ryan reported. Should we pursue? Elizabeth studied the tactical display. They had achieved their objectives. The supply base was captured, and they had proven that humanity could not only defend itself, but also take the fight to the enemy. Let them go, she ordered. Let them carry word of this defeat back to their empire. She turned to Matthew. Signal all ships to begin recovery operations. I want this base secured within the hour. As the battle died down, Elizabeth received reports from across the fleet. The casualties were lighter than expected. The new Steelheart technology had proven even more effective than their simulations suggested. Admiral, Ryan called out, you'll want to see this. He pulled up data from the captured base. According to their records, this facility supplied nearly a quarter of the Zentari fleet in this sector. Without it, their whole offensive capability in this region is crippled, Elizabeth finished. She allowed herself a small smile. Well done, everyone. But this is just the beginning. She was right. The battle had proven that humanity could match and even defeat the Zentari in open combat. But more importantly, it had shown that humans could outthink them, adapt faster, and fight in ways the aliens never expected. Send word to Earth, Elizabeth ordered. Operation Phoenix is a success. Request permission to proceed with Phase 2 of the counteroffensive. As the message was sent, she looked out at the captured base and the debris of battle surrounding it. The Zentari had thought their superior technology and centuries of experience would guarantee victory. They had forgotten that sometimes the strongest metal comes from the hottest fire. Humanity had been tested in the flames of war, and like the Steelheart metal that protected their ships, they had emerged stronger than ever. The counteroffensive had begun, and the galaxy was about to learn just how formidable humans could be. The Proxima Centauri system blazed with the light of battle. Hundreds of ships, both human and Zentari, fought in the space around humanity's first interstellar colony. This was the moment that would decide the fate of both species. Commander Jennifer Hayes crouched behind a fallen column in the massive Zentari command ship. Her small strike team had infiltrated the vessel during the chaos of battle, and now everything depended on their success. Status report, she whispered into her comm unit. Main fleet is engaging the Zentari defenders. Captain Matthew Brooks responded from the ISS Defiant. We'll keep them busy as long as we can. Jennifer checked her team's special equipment, devices developed by Dr. Susan Palmer herself. Remember, she told her squad, we only get one shot at this. They moved through the alien ship's corridors like shadows. The Zentari were so focused on the space battle that they never noticed the small team of humans making their way to their command center. Above them, the battle raged. The human fleet, led by the Defiant, fought with everything they had. Steel-heart metal gleamed on their hulls as they absorbed and returned the Zentari's energy attacks. Enemy ships are clustering around their command vessel, Ryan Phillips reported from his tactical station. They know it's their weak point. Matthew nodded grimly. Keep pushing. Commander Hayes needs more time. Inside the Zentari ship, Jennifer's team reached their target. The main control room. 2 team members placed Dr. Palmer's devices on either side of the massive door. Quantum breach charges armed, one of them reported. Jennifer took a deep breath. Execute. The devices activated, creating a localized quantum field that simply ignored the door's existence. The team rushed through the temporary gap, catching the Zentari command staff completely by surprise. Security breach. A Zentari officer shouted, but it was too late. Jennifer's team moved with perfect precision, using weapons specifically designed for this mission. Within minutes, they had control of the room. Command center secured, Jennifer reported. Beginning system override. On the Defiance bridge, Matthew allowed himself a small smile. Signal all ships. Begin Operation Steelheart. The human fleet suddenly changed formation. Ships that had been attacking pulled back, while others moved forward in a complex dance that had been practiced countless times. The Zentari fleet is responding, Ryan reported. They're falling into defensive positions around their command ship. Exactly as planned, Matthew said. Commander Hayes, status. Inside the Zentari command center, Jennifer and her team worked quickly. They had studied the alien technology for months, preparing for this moment. Almost there, she replied, her fingers flying over the alien controls. Dr. Palmer's override codes are working. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the Zentari command ship. The alien vessels surrounding it received a stream of conflicting orders, throwing their formation into chaos. Now, Matthew ordered, all ships execute final attack pattern. The human fleet struck from multiple directions at once. Zentari ships, confused by the contradictory commands and unable to coordinate their defenses, began to fall one by one. Message from the Zentari High Command, Ryan announced. They're requesting to communicate. Matthew shared a look with his bridge crew, put them through. The main screen showed the Zentari Supreme Commander, its crystalline eyes shifting colors rapidly. Your tactics are unprecedented, it said. Never in our history has any species managed to penetrate our command systems. Perhaps it's time to reconsider your opinion of humanity, Matthew suggested. The Zentari commander was quiet for a moment. We have observed your species closely. You advance faster than any race we have encountered. You adapt to challenges in ways we cannot predict. And now, it gestured to the battle around them. You have proven yourselves our equals in combat. Jennifer's voice came through the comm. Captain, we have full control of their command systems, awaiting your orders. Matthew stood from his chair. Supreme Commander, let me be clear. We don't want to destroy your forces. We don't want to conquer your empire. All we want is to be left in peace, to develop at our own pace, in our own way. The Zentari commander's eyes shifted to a deep blue. A color they had learned indicated deep thought. Your species is dangerous, it said finally. But perhaps that is not a bad thing. Your creativity, your adaptability, these are traits our empire has lost over the centuries of our dominance. Then maybe it's time for a change, Matthew suggested. A new relationship between our peoples, not as conquerors and subjects, but as equals. The discussion lasted for hours. Jennifer's team maintained control of the command ship systems, while diplomats from both sides were brought in. Finally, an agreement was reached. The Treaty of Proxima Centauri, as it came to be known, established humanity as an independent power in the galaxy. The Centauri would share their technology openly, while humans would share their innovative thinking and adaptability. As the human fleet prepared to return home, Matthew received one final message from the Centauri commander. "We called you steel-hearted as an insult," the alien said. "We thought your rapid advancement made you cold, mechanical, but we were wrong. Your hearts are not steel because they are cold, but because they are strong, unbreakable. We look forward to learning from this strength." Jennifer's team returned to the Defiant, their mission accomplished. As they watched the Centauri fleet depart peacefully, Matthew opened a channel to Earth. "Steel Heart Command, this is Captain Brooks. The war is over. Humanity has proven itself to the galaxy. We're coming home." The celebration that followed was unlike anything Earth had ever seen. Humanity had faced its greatest challenge and emerged stronger. The Steel Heart Initiative, created to defend Earth, would now lead humanity's expansion into the stars. In the years that followed, human ships would travel further into space than ever before. The quantum technologies developed during the war would revolutionize human society, and the alliance with the Centauri, born from mutual respect earned in battle, would help both species grow stronger. Dr. Palmer's Steel Heart Medal became a symbol of humanity's triumph, not just of their technological achievement, but of the unbreakable spirit it represented. Like the medal itself, humanity had absorbed every challenge thrown at it and grown stronger. In the end, the true victory wasn't just surviving the Centauri threat. It was proving that humanity deserved its place among the stars, not through conquest or dominance, but through determination, adaptability, and the strength of their steel hearts. As new ships were built and colonies expanded, they all carried the Steel Heart emblem, a reminder that when faced with impossible odds, humanity didn't just survive, they thrived.